to the Consciousness Anywhere and Everywhere podcast. I am Shannon O'Hara, and I invite you to a completely new world of possibilities. Deeper down the rabbit hole we go. Welcome to Consciousness Anywhere podcast. How does it get better than this? Thank you so much for reaching for this, to listen to this, to choose this. So today I'm actually going to be playing a Facebook Live that I did some years ago for a free membership that I was doing. And the topic is on knowing. I did this Facebook Live on perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving each individually. And if you want to check out, we already aired the perceiving Facebook Live as a podcast some months ago. So you have to scroll back through the episodes to find it. If you haven't listened to it, maybe start there and then come and listen to knowing. Perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving all compound on each other and are each a vital element for consciousness. Your consciousness, especially. They exist together, perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving. I like to call them a molecular structure, like water is hydrogen and oxygen. I always feel like I'm incorrect when I state that. Water is hydrogen and oxygen. Consciousness comprises of other molecular structures, one of which is perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving. And each of those individually is so powerful and so profound, but you can't really have one totally without having all four at the same time. So I hope that you get something out of this knowing. And what more knowing could you choose today? And what do you know? Rightio, guys, here we go. So whichever this is, it's knowing. And this, to be honest, is my favorite topic. I would say probably the one that's been the easiest for me when we're talking about perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving. If you haven't watched the perceiving Facebook Live video, please get on here, and it's here. It's in the videos. It's for everyone to see. Please watch the perceiving video because perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving all go hand in hand. Okay, so knowing. So I was saying that knowing is my favorite because it's been the easiest for me out of perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving. Perceiving and knowing have been the easier ones for me. And the thing is, when you start to grow or build or enhance or choose more of any of the four, perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving, it will affect, access more, grow more of the others. You can't have knowing without perceiving and receiving and being. And you can't have being without knowing and perceiving and receiving, and so on. And so when you are great, if you have one of these areas of perceiving, knowing, being, or receiving that you might have more ease with, what would happen if you acknowledged that you had more ease with it so that you have that building block to work from? So the thing about perceiving and knowing is, from my perspective, they are easier to have a conversation about than being and receiving. And it'll be interesting when we get to being and receiving, because being has no vocabulary, no language vocabulary. Being has a really big energetic vocabulary. So it'll be interesting to see how we talk about that. And then receiving, it's woo, receiving. That one is so outside this reality that there are no words that can speak to it. Anyways, here we are today with knowing. Woo! So what do you know that you're pretending not to know or denying that you know? And everything that is, we destroy and uncreate it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, pod, puck, shorts, boys, and beyonds. What do you know that you're pretending not to know or denying that you know? And everything that is, will you guys destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, pod, puck, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And I love seeing all of you guys hopping on here saying, I'm in Canada, I'm in Colombia, I'm in Amsterdam. It's so awesome. How did we get so lucky that we have this available to us where we can all tune in from all around the world? So every time you say, I don't know, you're cursing yourself to not know. So all of the I don't knows, that you've used to curse yourself, Will you revoke, recant, rescind, renounce, denounce, destroy, and uncreate all those curses, damnations, condemnations, convictions, and sentences? Ooh, right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, beyonds, and all of the curses, damnations, condemnations, convictions, and sentences passed on you to never know. Will you revoke, recant, rescind, renounce, denounce, destroy, and uncreate all of this, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Could an infinite being not know? So how much energy do you have to use against you not to know? And everything that is, will you guys destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. How much not knowing are you using to never be a source of change? And everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And what would change if you claimed and owned what you know? And everywhere you're resisting or avoiding that change, will you destroy and uncreate all that, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Okay. So what do you know that you're pretending not to know and denying that you know? Not knowing, I don't know, you then no longer have access. And so it's really important that if you're actually choosing to get more conscious, and it's like, how many of you guys, you have to look at, like, are you choosing to get more conscious? How committed are you to becoming more conscious in your life? Whatever that looks like. Because we've all got different definitions and reference points of what consciousness is, or choosing what consciousness is. So everywhere that all of the reference points, objectives, and definitions you have for what consciousness is, that eliminates what you know that consciousness is, will you destroy and uncreate it all, please? Right, wrong, good and bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And if you are choosing to get more conscious in your life and create more consciousness in your life, you have to stop saying, I don't know. You have to stop using I don't know as a reality. Now, you can say it as a manipulation to somebody when you don't want to talk about something or when you don't want to deal with something, but you have to be really conscious of when you're using it against yourself, either to not know, to not have to change, to not have to deal with something, or to not have to be something. Because remember, perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving all go together. So what being are you refusing with the knowing you are not choosing? And everything that is, will you guys destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. What being are you refusing with the knowing you are not choosing? Everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. What perceiving are you refusing with the knowing you are not choosing? And everything that is, will you guys destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. What receiving are you refusing with the knowing you are not choosing? And everything that is, will you guys destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. So every time that you say, I don't know, every time that you don't want to know, you are limiting what you can receive. Knowing, what if knowing could be a great gift to you? Now, for me, knowing, it was interesting because, like, a lot of you guys know that I started out a long time ago with Talk to the Entities. And it's an interesting area that I really had to really deal with perceiving and knowing in, because you mostly have to just perceive your awarenesses. And then when it came to entity stuff, it was like I had so much doubt and not knowing about, am I actually perceiving this entity? Am I really talking to this ghost? Is this really true? And enough times of me perceiving something with an entity and knowing what it was, but then doubting whether that I knew it, and then having it actually be validated as accurate afterwards. I mean, that probably maybe happened 700 times before I was like, okay, I know something. So what invalidation of you, your knowing, your being, your perceiving have you been subjected to? And everything that is, and everywhere that came from, and everything that you gave up based on that, whether it came from others or whether it was a choice that you made, will you destroy and uncreate any and all of that as a reality, please? Right and wrong, good and bad. All 9 pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. So what would happen if you claimed and owned what you know? And everywhere you don't want to perceive, know, be, and receive that, will you destroy it, uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Oof. Wow. Wow. What would happen? What is it? What all your projections, expectations, separations, rejections, and judgments that you have of what will happen if you know what you know, will you revoke, recount, rescind, renounce, denounce, destroy, and uncreate all this now, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod, poc, shorts, boys, beyonds. And how many of your limitations do you hold in place by not knowing what you know? And everything that this is, will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Holy crap. Whose reality are you validating by not knowing what you know? And everything that is, we destroy and uncreate it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Whose limitations are you pacifying by not knowing what you know? And everything that is, will you guys destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. So, knowing. Now, if we knew what we knew and we claimed and owned what we know, how would that change the creation of our lives? How many of you guys have gotten into a relationship and you knew right in the beginning that it wasn't right? There was something off for whatever reason. And you ignored that knowing and you went forward into the relationship and then eventually got to what you knew in the beginning and then finally acknowledged it. How much pain and suffering could you be avoiding by acknowledging what you know? How much pain and suffering do you create by ignoring what you know? So everywhere that all of the reference points for I don't know that you're using to destroy your lives, will you destroy and uncreate them, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And all of your objectives that you created or committed to in any lifetime to never know again, will you destroy and uncreate all those? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And so it's really interesting. I've been creating, we've been making what I love about the Tools of Access Consciousness videos. Probably you guys have seen those. And I chose to do the distractor implants as doing each one of them, giving one video to one distractor implant. Because there's so many of them and there's such dynamic, parts of our lives that I thought that speaking to each one individually would be most effective. And we just recorded one that hasn't been released yet on doubt. And how much of the distractor implants of blame, shame, regret, and doubt are you using to distract you from what you know? So all the distractor implants of blame, shame, regret, and doubt that you use to distract you from what you know, would you destroy and uncreate all that, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 POD POC shorts, boys and beyonds. And this right here, I think, is the most vital or intense, pivotal, relevant part of this conversation, in that if you knew what you know, could your life remain the same? And like the example I just gave about when you get into a relationship with somebody and you knew in the beginning and you ignored it, or you disregarded it, or you thought you could change it, and then eventually you discovered that that knowing that you had in the beginning was actually true, no matter if it was 6 months, 6 years, 60 years down the line, you eventually got to claim and own what you knew in the beginning. How much do you slow down your life by choosing not to know? Ouch. And everything that is, you guys destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 POD POC shorts, boys beyonds. And what would you have to change in your life that you don't want to change in your life if you claimed and owned what you know? So everything that is, and everything that doesn't allow that, and everywhere that you've already decided that's impossible, or you don't want your life to be that fast, that easy, will you destroy and uncreate it all, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 POD POC shorts, boys and beyonds. And it's been really interesting because I committed to consciousness some time ago. And in the beginning, I thought that committing to consciousness would require me to sacrifice a lot of things, or not have certain choices available to me, and so on and so forth. And I discovered that the more I chose for consciousness, the more I use these tools that we're talking about in every single one of these videos, and every tool that you learn and access. It's like every one of these tools will access greater consciousness. And so what I started to discover in my commitment to knowing was that I actually had more choices available to me in my commitment to knowing and my choice for consciousness than I would have had if I had continued to pretend like I didn't know. And everything that is. We guys destroyed and created. Right, wrong, good, bad, all 9 POD POC shorts, boys and beyonds. And I have then gone on to apply the speed of knowing to everything I'm creating and choosing in my life. For example, like I used the relationship as an example. And you can even use food as an example. Like, how many times have you guys known that your body doesn't want to eat something or drink something, and then you eat it or drink it, and you have the experience with your body that you knew you were going to have, but that you ignored your knowing of in the beginning? I just did that last week. And so when we are also creating classes, like when I'm creating classes or creating my business, creating my life, I work with a lot of people, whether they're hosts or staff, promoters. I work with a lot of people to create stuff all over the world, and we'll get an idea, or I'll know that something could be created, and I'll know that something could be created. And sometimes I don't even know what exactly it is yet. It's not even a formed reality. It's a knowing. It's an awareness of an energy. And I'll go, okay, so what is this? And sometimes it's the energy of a body class. Sometimes it's the energy of a foundation class. Sometimes it's the energy of a telecall. And I've gotten better at instituting what I know when the knowing starts with only an energetic awareness. And so okay, so what is this? And let's say it's a live class. And I'll go, okay, so how can I create this, or where can I create this? And either certain people will pop up, or somebody will have already spoken to me and invited me, or something like that. And I'll just follow that energy. And sometimes people will say the things that they think you want to hear to create with you, but they might not actually be capable of creating with you or really want to create with you. They just want either a free class, or they want you to do all the work and they can just, sit back and get commissions, or, it's a million different things. And so I've had to learn over the years what I've had to learn to know and to acknowledge what I know immediately when I perceive something with somebody. So you see how perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving work together. And so I'll perceive something. And since perception is not this concrete, defined thing, it's like this fleeting flicker of ching, okay, there's an awareness there. And then I'll have to claim and own that perception. Okay, I perceive that. So what do I know? And one of the ways to strengthen your knowing is to, number one, stop saying you don't know and replace it with, what do I know? What do I know? What do I know? And sometimes what you know will be crystal clear. And sometimes it won't be crystal clear, but you can still know it. And you might not have all the details or the why or the reason, but you absolutely have your knowing. And if you follow that knowing, even if it doesn't make sense, will your knowing ever lead you wrong? So everywhere that you guys actually believe that your knowing will lead you wrong, will you destroy and create all this? Thank you. Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And everywhere that you knew what you knew and you gave up on what you know for somebody else's point of view or judgment, will you revoke, recant, rescind, renounce, denounce, destroy, and create, please? Thank you. Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Everywhere you've given up on what you know for somebody else's point of view or somebody else's judgment, will you revoke, recant, rescind, renounce, denounce, destroy, and uncreate, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. So what do you know that you're pretending not to know or denying that you know, that if you knew it, would access greater perceiving, receiving, and being? And everything that doesn't allow it, destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Cool. Does anyone have any questions? You can type them in the chat window. In the last, 6 or 7 minutes of this Facebook Live, if you have any questions, anything that comes up for you around knowing in your life, feel free. And obviously, this is such a huge topic. It's an area that if you really truly knew, how much energy would you stop wasting? And again, it's like, how much do you not claim and own what you know so that you can avoid having to choose or having to change something in your life that you know you actually have to choose or change? And so we begin the epic quest of choosing and creating and changing our lives. And if you guys are committed to not knowing, your lives will suffer. How many of you guys have taken to heart and actually utilized this tool of knowing, or explored what knowing is, or really made a commitment to stop saying and thinking, I don't know? Has anybody done that, on here? So one of the questions, how to know the difference between knowing and thinking. For me, knowing is super peaceful. Thinking always has this weird other energy that's attached to it. And so literally you have to go based on your sense of the energetics, because we're so not taught to know. And you can also start asking, okay, so show me the difference between knowing and thinking. Ask the universe, show me the difference between knowing and thinking. And it'll come. If you ask, it'll come. And you'll get it. And you'll know. 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 Knowing is peaceful. Thinking is not so peaceful. How can I act upon what I know? That's interesting, actually. I'm glad you asked that. Because when you know something, you have to ask, okay, because like knowing exists independently. Just because you know something doesn't actually mean you have to do something with it. And so, like, for example, for a lot of years, like, I knew when ghosts wanted to talk to somebody or had something going on, and I had to learn that just because I was aware of it and I knew it didn't actually mean it was my responsibility to handle and change and choose. So I've actually become this process But the question I used, or the tool I used to assist in that was, okay, so like, do I have to do anything with this? Yes, no, yes. Okay, yes. So what do I do with this? Do I make a phone call? Do I clear an entity? Do I get a divorce? Do I make a marriage proposal? Like so on and so on and so on. And if you ask, do I have to do anything with this? And you get a no, then just know it. Just know it. Next question. What is required for not turning knowing into conclusion or judgment? Oh, this is the answer everyone hates. It's a choice. And if it's conclusion, is that really knowing? If it's conclusion, is that knowing? Knowing, I don't know if this analogy will help. And it's like knowing is that mountain range. It's the backbone, the spine, that strong standing mountain that is part of everything and knows itself totally. It's not a wall, which is a conclusion, right? Like a mountain range, you might look at it and go, how the fuck am I going to get over that? But you can definitely get over that mountain range. And how many of you guys have climbed mountains and found magical beauty along the way? Conclusion is a wall. And so you have to learn the difference between the high peaks of the mountains and a wall. Both are imposing. One has one purpose, another has another purpose. Okay, next question. Would like to know what I know about creating money the humanoid way instead of trying to do it in the human way. So you have to ask, what do I know about money that others might not? Or what am I capable with money that other people won't allow as their reality? Okay, cool. How can I develop awareness? Ooh, baby, lots of access. It's like lots of access. The more I've used access, the more my awareness has grown. And I actually didn't know what awareness was before I got aware. I was like, this is what the fuck awareness is. And so every time you get your bars run, like if you haven't done a bars class, get your butt to a bars class, run your bars. That will develop awareness in ways that you have no reference point for yet. And all you have to do is lay down and receive. And so you can see how these tools all work together to build the kingdom of awareness in the world. Another way you can build awareness is you have to ask to be aware. Okay, so what's it going to take to be more aware? Third thing to be more aware, you have to claim and own. This is very vital. You must claim and own what you are aware of when you are aware of it. Meaning, when you are aware of something and you pretend like you're not, or you doubt yourself, or I don't know yourself, that weakens the muscles of awareness. Every time you claim and own what you are aware of, it gets easier. For example, I have this like rashy, itchy thing that's been going on my shoulder for like 2-3 months. And at first I thought, okay, am I having an allergic reaction to something? Like, what is this? Da, 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 da. And finally I was like, okay, body, what are you aware of? And I got this like sense of my birth father. And Gary Douglas is my stepfather, and I have another father. I've got two for the price of one. And I haven't actually spoken to him in probably 7 years. And anyways, I got this when finally I was like, okay, body, what is this? What is this? And I got this flash of that his body is just going through some really hard stuff. And so this is my body giving me the awareness of his body. And I was like, okay, body, could you maybe stop doing this? How can we facilitate this more easily? So on and so forth. And it has actually improved a lot. And every now and then, like this morning, I felt it coming and I went, okay, so what's he going through? And as soon as I perceived this, I was like, instead of resisting it or itching it or, oh, this is wrong, this awareness is bad, I don't like this is uncomfortable. I was like, okay, cool. I love being aware. Now, what else is possible? Okay, guys. So Thank you all so much for being here. I love this conversation. Knowing, like I said, is one of my favorite topics. It's going to be interesting to see where being leads, as it's not a vocabulary that most of us can understand yet. And we will dive in, we will give it a go, and we will facilitate greater possibility. Thank you all for being here. Please go back through, have another listen. What do you know? What do you know? What do you know? What do you know? And do you need to do anything with it? Thanks, everybody. See you next month. Thank you for listening to this show. My target is to make consciousness easy to find and choose. So if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a 5-star review on iTunes and share this with somebody who you know who might be looking for more consciousness in their life. You can visit me on shannon-o'hara.com or talktotheentities.com. And to learn more about the amazing tools of Access Consciousness, you can visit accessconsciousness.com and be sure to subscribe to the podcast.